So a lot of you guys wanted to see more editing tutorials. Here's another video where I show you how to edit a couple of Moody photos on Adobe Lightroom. I'm probably gonna start doing these quick editing tutorials semi-regularly, so if you want to see more, subscribe to this channel. Anyway, let's get to it. So I'm gonna show you a couple of different Moody edits here, starting with a very kind of a boring photo. Not exactly gonna set the world on fire, but I think this photo is the best example of a really easy and quick Moody edit on Lightroom. It's gonna take less than 2 minutes to edit this one. First of all, before we start, I gotta point out the obvious. If you wanna edit a Moody photo, you should start with a photo that has some Moody elements in it already. That way you get the best possible result. So look for, depressing stuff like rainy, foggy scenes of Finland in the springtime, like this one here. Now, the most important element of editing a Moody photo is, in my opinion, the tone curve. You want to select the RGB tone curve, not the color channels or whatever this is. And on this tone curve, you want to focus on the shadows. The left side of the tone curve is the shadows and the right side is the highlights. So we're just going to play with the shadows here. First, we're just going to drop the shadows a little bit here. And then the second element is crushing the blacks by raising the left side endpoint. How much you want to do this depends on the photo and your taste. But that is basically, at its core, the most important element of a Moody edit on Lightroom. Just a simple tone curve adjustment, which of course you can fine tune to your liking. Then we can do a couple of additional adjustments. I like color contrast. If you see my videos, you might know that. So I'm just gonna make the white balance a little bit colder for some nice color contrast with these bus lights here, just to demonstrate how important that is to the look of this photo. Let's remove all of the color. It's so much more boring like this. And there we're gonna go down to the effects and remove some of the clarity and add some vignetting for additional darkness, feathering to make it stand out less. And we can add some texture to kind of offset the clarity decreasing adjustment. Now personally I love film, so I'm gonna add some grain to kind of emulate that look. I think it works well with Moody photos. And of course, how could I forget? I gotta crop the image. Now again, this is a very basic edit, but we can copy these settings and kind of build our other Moody edits that I'm going to show you later based on these simple adjustments that we just did here. Just to kind of demonstrate this, here's a photo that I took in New York, and we're just going to go and paste the edit settings from the previous one. And then all we got to do is make a couple of small adjustments to fix it. Fixing the exposure a little bit, decreasing the contrast even a little bit further. Could do it here or on the curves, doesn't really matter. Changing the white balance slightly. I think adding a little bit more vignetting even. And the grain looks a little bit overdone on this one. Removing it a little bit. And there we go. Really fast, easy edit. But of course, not every edit is going to be this quick or this easy. So let's move on to a couple more complex, dark, Moody edits. So here's a photo of a gas station taken on a very foggy day. Now fog can make your photos much moodier very easily, but it can also make editing a little bit more difficult depending on the amount of fog and the other elements in the photo. So let's just go ahead and paste the settings again, basically the tone curve and everything. Immediately we see this photo is way too dark. We can go and increase the exposure, but here we see it is way too contrasty to begin with. Let me just fix the horizon because this is bothering me. Anyway, we can see that this photo is way too contrasty. So the instinct is to go to decrease the contrast here, which looks fine. But what I like to do especially on foggy days, is I like to go into the effects and use the dehaze. But again, instead of going to the natural direction of dehaze on a hazy day, we go to the opposite direction to kind of remove contrast. And the difference here is that you can see a lot of the glow coming from the highlights on this foggy day. This is a trick that I like to utilize on foggy photos with bright highlights. Then we just go and adjust the white balance a little bit. The signature blue that I like to do here. And this photo is so digital that the grain just looks fake. So I'm gonna remove it for this one. And now if we wanna keep fine tuning the color, I would go to the color grading and add some blue into the shadows. And here is the before and after. So again, we have the so-called Moody tone curve doing most of the work. And the last Moody dark edit for this video is gonna be of this street photo that I took in Tokyo. Now in reality, not all of my edits are that straightforward and easy to do. And this is an example of an edit that I had to work quite hard to find the direction in and to get it right. And it's gonna be a little bit different from the others. First of all, we can't just paste the settings from the others. It just doesn't work no matter what you do. It just looks weird. So we're gonna do this from scratch. We're gonna reset the edit and start working on it. Real quick crop, but really we're gonna start with the exposure. Drop the exposure a little bit and then do the so-called Moody tone curve. This time we're gonna add a little bit more in terms of the adjustment points. Start with the shadows again, raise the black point slightly, not as much as in the others, and increase the highlight point a little bit as well. Then we're gonna go into the highlight slider and fine-tune the highlights a little bit further. It doesn't really matter where you do this, but that's how I did it for this one. The color is pretty important for this edit, so let's go to the white balance. First of all, drop the white balance ever so slightly. Change the tint a little bit towards purple and drop overall saturation by a little bit to kind of mute the colors and make it moodier. I believe vignette is a pretty important factor in this photo as well to kind of increase the darkness. So let's get that out of the way. It really makes a big difference here. But then let's go back to the color editing and we're gonna work with the color mixer here. Gonna drop the reds ever so slightly. Gonna change the hue of the oranges to be a little bit more yellow. And then we're gonna go into the blues and make it a little bit more teal-ish and kind of increase the highlights of the blues by adding luminance, just a little bit. Then in the color grading, I've chosen to go into the highlights and add a little bit more yellow for a certain type of color contrast. And I'm also gonna add just a tiny bit of blue into the shadows. Now I believe this photo can benefit from a little bit of grain as well. So adding a little bit of grain there. And for this particular image, I actually like clarity. I don't like it to be too blurry, so a little bit of clarity can work here. And then I've also decreased the dehaze because in this original file we actually have a little bit of steam, and decreasing the dehaze makes the steam more visible. Then we can fine-tune the exposure just a little bit, revealing the shadows just a little bit, adjusting the white point for a little bit of a punchiness. And then this is very Japan specific, but what I like to do is whenever there's one of these umbrellas, I like to add some clarity or texture into the umbrella itself because it kind of draws the eyes to it and makes it look punchier and cooler. And those are the full steps of how I achieved this result from the before and after. Eventually, once you use Lightroom enough, you'll be able to adjust your editing to any photo, even if the default doesn't work, even if you can't just paste the preset. When you know what every single one of these little sliders does, you'll be able to come up with solutions to get to the end result that you want. So knowing all these little tricks like when to increase or decrease clarity, how the tone curve works, how dehaze affects the photo in both directions, all of these are things you'll pick up on the way once you keep editing for several hours a day for years on straight. It's not a process that you learn immediately, just keep doing it and eventually you'll be able to do basically whatever you want with the software. It'll just feel very natural. Now a lot of you guys actually asked which device I use to edit. I don't actually use my iPad too much these days because, to be honest, it hurts my eyes to look at it for too long. Something about the screen is like that. I'm simply doing this video on the iPad because whenever I record my screen and do edits on my laptop, which I usually do, the fan of the laptop gets so loud that it ruins the video. So I either usually edit on the laptop or on my phone. Anyway, I tried to diversify this video to have several different types of moody dark edits. Hope it was helpful. And actually, now that I look at this edit again, I realize that it's not really as dark as I intended. So we're just gonna go and drop the exposure a little bit more and perhaps even raise the black point a little bit more. Now these are the little adjustments you'll have to make. Just Don't immediately publish the photo as soon as you edit it. Let your eyes rest, look somewhere else, and then come back and make the final adjustments. That way you'll end up with a much better end result. But this, to me, looks pretty good now. If you like this video, leave it a comment and a like, and let me know which one of these edits you would like to see next time. Let me know in the comments. Anyway, thank you very much for watching. I'll see you hopefully next time.